Don't we do this? We have an idea, something we want to accomplish, something bad happens and we shut down. Don't we say this isn't a good time? This isn't the right opportunity. There's too many things going on. I can't do this thing that I want to do. Don't we? No, let's not. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about how we can overcome those things instead. Marcia Barnes is next. And the heat is on, the pressure is on. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by the Ruby Group, Sandler Sales Training, serving sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They are one of the highest performing Sandler Sales Training outfits in the nation, and they're on their way to the very top. You can go with them. They'll make a difference for you and your team. You can check them out online at therubygroup.sandler.com. Welcome to the show. My guest today is Marcia Barnes. She is CEO and founder of Valve and Meter Performance Marketing, also an author with her new book out, Here We Grow. That is her story. It's about business. It's about marketing. It's about leadership. It's about faith. It's about Marcia Barnes. Marcia, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian.
I'm really glad you're here. We have not met before today, and we have a couple of people that we know in common, and your name kept coming up, and I said, I need to talk to Marcia.
That's very kind. Yeah.
So you've accomplished some great things. This show is about purpose. It's about pressure, and it's about overcoming that pressure and not failing underneath it. And you've done that. And I want to tell that story. And Marcia, before we start, or as we start, go ahead and share with folks kind of what your purpose is, kind of why you walk the earth, why you do what you do. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, in my childhood, I kind of grew up in a very high stress environment. We were poor. My mother had an addiction to amphetamines, and she was abusive, but kind of got that from her multi-generational journey of her ancestry. And so when you look at poverty, addiction, and abuse together, you've got the recipe, and the data will tell us that I have a 98% chance of repeating that cycle, right? Mm. Now, the way you break that cycle is you develop resilience by having people around you that are pouring into you and helping shape you. So grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors, teachers, Sunday school teachers, 4-H club leaders. And I had that in spades, and so did my sisters. And so we were able to break that cycle of poverty, addiction, and abuse, all three of us. So when I look at that, so many people came around us, not just in childhood, but all through my journey. Even today, I have people helping me with learning new skills or breaking through new barriers. It seems to me like God puts the people in my path that I need at just the right time that I need them in order to help me impact others. Mm-hmm. And because that's been done for me, then I feel it incumbent upon me to share that with others. So I kind of get up every day asking, who can I help?
And that's key, isn't it? You being able to pay that forward. And I'm interested. I know about that cycle. I understand a little bit behind the scenes about that cycle and how it's very difficult to break. What about your childhood allowed you to have those people around you? A lot of times that cycle keeps those people out and it just perpetuates again and again and again. But you had people to help bring you through. What was different in your situation?
So I think part of it was, we were in school. Our parents had been in 4-H, so we were involved there, and we were at church, right? Mm-hmm. And so with that kind of lineup, I was involved in sports and things like that. You encountered a lot of well-meaning adults who were telling you who you were in their eyes, and so you didn't have the constant barrage of not having value inside the home. My dad was very different from my mom, and I think that helped carry some of that through. But yeah, it's a difficult cycle to break, and it's agonizing when you watch people just get pulled under by it,
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm interested, though. Sometimes I like to read the end of the book first. I want people to know that you started where you started, but where you are now as the CEO and founder of an extremely successful marketing company that serves lots of medium, small business, all businesses of all types, making their dreams come true. You've really broke through and accomplished some amazing things. Tell us a little bit about what success is like now, and then maybe we can go through and we'll talk about the journey a little bit.
Sure. So Valve and Meter is the culmination of trying to help businesses create abundance. I had a track record of being able to do that in a company, and I felt like I wanted to be somewhere where I could share that with many people. So we have a goal to 10x the valuation of 100 companies here at Valve and Meter. And we've done that a handful of times already, and we have several others that are on a journey to do that. But that gives us a great deal of joy. But we also have a goal of creating C-level executives on our team as they grow and develop and move forward in their careers. So we're in stewardship of the people on our team and the marketing and growth results for our clients as well. And that just always seems like holy ground to me. So it's very exciting work when you're able to help a entrepreneur go from having a family business that's worth about $500,000 and making about 4% profit. And he's got to make some changes because he's got 3 adult children entering the business. And 4 years later, his business is worth $9 million. And they ended up selling the business and anchoring the family wealth in more of a diverse way than just in the business. And the adult children are still running that business for the person who acquired it today. So that is like the culmination of what we are about here at Valve and Meter.
And so is 10x growth for 100 businesses, is that a monetary goal for you, or is that a one at a time, I'm going to watch people succeed goal for you? Which is what spurs that number and that goal?
I like watching it happen. Early in my career, I had experiences with helping people transform situations that were ugly. And I just got addicted to that. And so I like taking a growth and or profitability problem that a company has and fixing that with marketing and the wisdom that we've garnered over the years here.
Yeah, interesting. So it could be, I want to make X amount of money based on serving 100 businesses, or it can be, I want to serve 100 businesses and I want to see exponential growth. That's tremendous.
Yeah. Early in my career, like in my early 20s, I read Zig Ziglar's book, See You at the Top.
Yeah, it's right there on my bookshelf.
There you go. And on the very first page, and I'll bet this hit you too, he says in bold print, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Man.
So I really do put secondary I'm not attached to my financial results. I get them, but my core drive is to be able to help people achieve their full potential.
And so see, folks, I love this because now we know where Marcia started. We know where Marcia is. Let's talk about the path in between. Let's talk about the pressure. We know your purpose now. What gets in the way? What are the hardships you remember? What would you like to share with folks about the pressures that can come along the way?
Yeah. This is the if you knew then what you know now type of question, right? But I started my first business when I was 26 years old and had some interesting successes there. And I write about that in the book too. Ended up closing that after about 4 years and went to work for someone else and did that. I had a couple jobs where I wasn't the owner of the business in between. And I'm just not a good employee. I think I'm hardcore unemployable, Brian.
I love that.
I did a great job for people, but my heart was in being able to have control of a business to guide it.
What does that mean, hardcore unemployable? It means that you just don't want to follow rules. You want to do your own thing. I get it, but I wonder if you can explain to people what that means.
In its simplest form, it means I would rather work 80 hours a week for myself than 40 hours a week for someone else.
Tremendous.
No, it's because to me, I felt like I had a calling to produce something in the world, which was to love and serve people, get their permission to lead by loving and serving well. And when I had permission to leave, I could get transformational results. And working for someone else, for me, it was more difficult to do that. Mm-hmm. So, and then in 1991, my youngest son was born 16 weeks early and weighed 1 pound and 9 ounces at birth.
Wow.
And that kind of turned the world upside down for a bit. And the hospital told me it's not a good idea to put him in daycare because of his respiratory systems could be affected with common cold exchanges and things like that. So this felt like a time to start up a business again. And so I did that working from my home. And so I could be at home with a nanny, but taking care of the kids while I was working. And that business ended up growing into a couple million in revenue we took on a new client who was running a home services businesses out of the spare bedroom of his home, Dave Lindsay. And he hired us to set appointments for his sales reps. He was $2 million in revenue when we started, and 90 days later, he was on an $8 million run rate. And so the world's on fire for him, and he wanted to buy my business. I didn't want to sell it because I needed to be I was raising these two kids and homeschooling Ryan from the office. And so lifestyle wise, it didn't make sense. So for 4 years, we worked together as client and vendor. And then in around 2003, the no-call list came into effect, and all of our leads were being generated in my outbound call centers. So we could see that we were going to need to make the phones ring in. So we merged the businesses together. He was about $25 million in revenue at that point, and I took the job of director of marketing. Today, I wonder if Dave and I would be brave enough or stupid enough to make that decision again, because the likelihood that should have worked would have been out of this world.
Yeah.
But it did. Dave had a philosophy of, Marcia, I have an unlimited appetite for marketing that works. So if you run tests to show me that the return on marketing spend is profitable, I'll buy all of that marketing that I can find. Mm-hmm. And when you can find enough programs that work that we can get 50 new customers in a market every month, we'll start opening offices across the country. And we did that. We opened 140 offices around the country. And in the 14 years that I was working with them as a vendor or as a team member, we grew to over 400 million in revenue. And I ended up in the CEO president's role for the last 3 or 4 years I was there. And it was just a huge blessing. But
that does not sound unhireable and unemployable.
Well, that's a very good point, Brian. Thanks for saying that. Because Dave, the owner, he let me be an entrepreneur inside that business.
There you go.
And
extreme ownership.
Yes, he definitely. I did own a small percentage of the company, really small, but a really small percentage of a company that grows to $400 million is a lot of money. So, so it worked out well for he and I both. But I exited in 2013 because I felt like the marketing model we had built was repeatable and scalable to other businesses. And I wanted to help a lot of businesses create abundance and not just one. Mm-hmm. And so that is what created the path to Valve and Meter today.
The birth of your son kind of forced that hand. Right. And it let you were courageous enough to start your own, smart enough to start your own. But kind of you had to do it. Right. You needed to be home, those kinds of things. This was a situation where you had to decide to leave and go out and start on your own. Was there some trepidation there? Was there some fear?
Yeah. I kind of knew that I was going to need to do that about 6 months ahead of when I did it. Mm-hmm. And, when you're running that kind of an organization and you're making that kind of money, it's hard to find the off-ramp, right? And the path just unfolded in front of me, the right people, the right set of circumstances to do it. And I left, took a year off to kind of recover and rejuvenate and get clear on what I wanted to do going forward. And made a couple of what others might call missteps in my path from leaving Defenders to Valve and Meter today. But those missteps, in hindsight, if I hadn't taken each of them, and I did thoughtfully, prayerfully go into each of them, if I hadn't made those steps, I wouldn't have had what it's taken to create Valve and Meter. I couldn't have done it,
Can we talk about that a little bit? The faith portion of this, the idea that God puts people in front of you to make a difference when you were growing up, the fact that your son was born 16 weeks early and a pound some ounces is devastating, but it's part of a plan, isn't it? It feels like everything in your life has unfolded, even though it's been hard on purpose. Is that accurate?
I have faced down so many difficult situations that I actually have a process for going through it today. And I'm okay if I think God's tested me enough on this. I'm okay if he lets up, but I wouldn't take any of it back, Brian. My youngest son, Ryan, he has cerebral palsy. I know that I wouldn't change that for him. I would be open to him changing it,
Mm-hmm.
but I would not. Because I was a hell of a better mother and a better woman because of it, right?
That's right. That's right. It's hard. The blessings that we receive don't always look like blessings, and they still don't look like blessings. And you ask why, and yet when you look back, maybe you can see.
Right, and those types of things bring people into your life you're able to help that have similar situations. And then the other thing I found was, in 2017, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I sat out in the doctor's parking lot for about 20 minutes crying and feeling sorry for myself. And then I thought, well, we'll see what God does with this. And, within just a few weeks, I'd met really cool people and found my group that I could hang with in that space. I've found witness in it and an ability to encourage others with Parkinson's. And I had to, because I had told that freaking kid for 30 years that our disability does not affect our ability to impact people in the kingdom for good. So now I had to eat my own medicine, right? So that's the type of thing of, I was prepared for my future by what my son went through with his early birth and cerebral palsy.
Sandler rule, only decision makers can get other people to make decisions. Each and every day, we have a decision to make. Also, when we're with buyers in our sales process, we have a decision to make how we're going to lead that interaction. And if I'm somebody that can make daily commitments and keep those daily commitments, then when I'm with buyers, I expect them to make commitments and keep those commitments to me throughout that sales process. So first and foremost, I have to have a decided heart in order to lead other people to make the decisions that I'm expecting them to make.
Do you think that when those things happen, they happen, right?
Oh,
you
yeah.
open the door and away it goes, and you don't have a choice.
Yep.
Like you said, hey, God, it's okay if you take a break.
That's right.
Do you, Marcia, knock down doors until you can figure out a way to get it through, or do you have a way of being at peace and letting the solution come?
I think knocking down doors is okay when it's called for, but the first thing to do is to get grateful. Be grateful for the curveball that's just been saying. I call these curveballs, right? And sometimes the curveball is a knuckleball, and a knuckleball is a curveball that doesn't give a damn. It just comes in all directions, right?
Yeah.
And these curveballs, get grateful for them, because that's my first step is, there's something in this that's going to cause me to create a part of myself that's going to be useful in the future. So just being grateful for where that'll take me. Secondly is starting to think about who else has come through this curveball that I could talk to and get some wisdom from. What can I read? What can I listen to? Who can I connect with to educate myself? I become an expert on the curveball. Then the next step is, who else can I help by having this experience? And then I tie that to giving. Sometimes an offering or a gift on the behalf of others is something that will unleash some ability to handle stress, and the power behind that giving is always blessed in my experience. But those are kind of my go-to tactics.
And so what's next, Marcia? There is, your life has unfolded to this point, and you've not let one thing hurt you. You've allowed everything to help you and your family and your company, and you employ now some over 40 people, and you're making a difference. This 10X for 100 companies, is it going to happen? Are you able to make it happen?
Yeah, that's we've done it a handful of times already in our 6 short years in business.
And so what's next?
So I'm going to grow Valve and Meter. We're working on growing this to become an employee-owned business. This part of my career is about taking others along with me in the journey, helping businesses 10X, helping marketers develop C-level executives and create business acumen for them, and to help them have a wealth journey. So that's the big goal with the company. My position is on marketing that the way people buy marketing is broken, and the way agencies sell marketing is broken. And I'm trying to realign what that should look like. That we cover a lot of that in the book. I have a couple ministries I'm involved in. I'm in Truth at Work, which is a organization that has puts business owners who have a faith-based orientation in roundtables to help support one another on their personal, business, and spiritual issues, in order to help them impact the kingdom through their business. I facilitate one of those groups, which is a huge blessing to me to be able to do that. And then I do some mission work, quite a bit of mission work with a Youth with a Mission, Homes of Hope, where we build homes in Mexico for the less fortunate. So I stay kind of unattached to what the outcomes of the business are and listening to where God's calling me next. But I sometimes daydream about a world where I'm advising Truth at Work or advising Valve and Meter, but I'm facilitating some Truth at Work groups, and I'm helping businesses have an experience in short-term missions and building homes in Mexico. And I also do some board work for different corporations. That sounds like kind of where I'm headed. We're looking at investing in some of our client businesses where we know how to market those. So I have goals for the future that I am loosely attached to the results of those, because I find it's better to let God call me in the directions that I'm for sure supposed to go.
Based on all of those things that you're going to accomplish, not hope to accomplish, and are doing now, there are people out there. Not everybody has a premature child, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's diagnosis, and yet everyone's got problems.
Right.
Everyone's got stuff, and everyone's got dreams, and they may not be the same as yours, but they're theirs. What would you say to these folks, knowing what you've known now and overcoming what you've overcome and still will overcome? What would you say to these folks that are struggling with their own demons, their own struggles, trying to do what they're trying to do?
Now, when we thumbnail my stuff that we just talked about, those can sound like some pretty big issues. But there's also little issues that seem like they're big for us too. And I think you've got to treat those with the same type of process, because what's big to me might be different from what's big to you. So just accepting that all of our journeys are different. I don't want to minimize anyone else's bad things that happen to them by a laundry list of crap that I've created. So there's that. Yeah. But if I really had gotten clear earlier in my life about who I am in God's eyes, instead of chasing the approval of the world, approval from my parents, approval from my friends, approval from business, approval from the numbers I'm achieving and all that, my life would have been a lot easier, because when you're clear on who you are, you're clear on where you're supposed to go. And that walk is a lot easier than when you're the one crafting the journey.
Marcia, the book is called Here We Grow. The business is Valve and Meter Performance Marketing. And when someone wants to reach out to you, get a hold of the book, maybe even learn from you, how would they do that?
Sure. The book is available on Amazon.com, and I'm actually working on the audio recording today, and so we're wrapping that up. You can go online and connect with us at valveandmeter.com. And even if you don't think you have you're looking for a marketing agency, I always encourage people, let's do a free assessment for you, because in most of those cases, there's something we can advise you on that's going to improve your business, and that won't cost you anything.
Perfect. And that is, again, helping people achieve what they want, help you do what you want to do, and that is affecting people. And I have to tell you, Marcia, like I said at the very beginning of the show, we had not met. I did not know your story. I have not read your book. I promised you that I would, but I also told you that I didn't. But I just thank you so much. I'm so glad we were brought together. I'm so glad you had this chance to talk to the audience. And I just thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing. I know you are impacting other lives by doing so, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Brian.
That's Marcia Barnes. I'm glad you were here to see and be a part and to hear from her. And I hope that she has inspired you and to overcome the things that you are trying to overcome on your way to success. Thank you very much to Marcia Barnes of Valve and Meter Performance Marketing and the author of the Here We Grow book, available on Amazon. You will find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast. And wherever you stream your podcast, this show is brought to you by the Ruby Group, Sandler Sales Training. Sellers are under pressure to perform. Sellers have their own list of problems. They make some of them up themselves. Sandler will help you succeed on purpose. Folks, we do this every week. I hope you come back. We'll see you when you do, on purpose.